In the last 10 years, one country grew faster than China and attracted more factories than almost anywhere else on Earth. It wasn't Indonesia, it wasn't India. It was Vietnam, once one of the poorest nations alive, now the backbone of global manufacturing. So what actually happened here, and can this kind of growth possibly last? Let's find out. Rewind to 1986. Vietnam had just come out of decades of war and was recovering from a brutal famine. It was one of the poorest countries in Asia, poorer than Bangladesh, poorer than most of sub-Saharan Africa at the time. State control loosened. Farmers could finally sell surplus crops instead of handing everything over to the government. For years, it was a slow burn, but over the last decade, everything changed and Vietnam became the world's next factory floor. Here's the part most people miss. Vietnam's boom isn't really a Vietnam story first, it's a China story. Rising labor costs and trade tensions pushed global companies to find a second manufacturing base outside of China. Investors call this strategy China Plus One. Keep some production in China, but build a backup nearby. Vietnam checked every box: a young workforce, wages a third of China's deep water ports, and a shared land border. So when Samsung, Nike, and Apple suppliers went looking for a plan B, Vietnam wasn't a backup option. It was the obvious answer. Samsung alone now builds a huge share of its global smartphones in Vietnam, employing well over 100,000 workers. Let's put numbers on this because they're genuinely wild. Vietnam has grown faster than nearly every economy in Southeast Asia. Exports have exploded. Vietnam now ships more goods per person than countries with far larger populations. Foreign investment has poured in year after year, even while global investment pulled back almost everywhere else. This isn't just electronics. Vietnam is now one of the largest exporters of furniture, footwear, and textiles on the planet. Poverty has collapsed, and a fast-growing middle class is emerging in cities like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. But here's the tension nobody puts on the thumbnail. Vietnam's biggest strength is also its biggest vulnerability. Because so much of this growth depends on decisions made in boardrooms in Seoul, Cupertino, and Beijing, not in Hanoi. If trade tensions escalate or a cheaper alternative emerges, Vietnam's advantage could fade just as quickly as it appeared. There's also an infrastructure ceiling. Ports, power grids, and roads built for a smaller economy are now straining under the boom. Power shortages have already disrupted factories during peak years. Without serious investment, growth could outpace the country's own infrastructure. And as wages rise with the growing middle class, the same logic that brought companies in could eventually send them elsewhere. So is Vietnam the next China? Probably not, and it isn't really trying to be. China built an economy on scale. Vietnam is building one on being indispensable to global supply chains. The real test is whether Vietnam can climb the value chain, designing and building products, not just assembling them. If it manages that shift, Vietnam won't just be a manufacturing story. It'll be one of the biggest economic transformations of this century. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more deep dives into the economies shaping our world, and tell us which country to cover next.